I came home to the sound of a pump humming on my private lake, and by the end of the week, the HOA president was screaming that I was a selfish villain, while a county inspector calmly read violations off a clipboard, like she was ordering lunch, yeah? That happened. The wild part is, I'm not some courtroom guy or internet tough guy. I'm just Luke Harper, a regular homeowner in Coyote Ridge, outside Redstone, Oklahoma. And I inherited that little spring-fed lake from my granddad. The lake bed, the rights, all of it. It's the one place in my life that's always been quiet on purpose, and I fought harder for that silence than I ever thought I would. If you've ever dealt with an HOA that treats your boundaries like a suggestion, you already know where this is going. Because this started the way these stories always start, with somebody smiling while they cross a line, and then acting offended when you point at the line and say, "Hey, that's mine." I'd been gone 10 days for work. Just a normal trip. Nothing dramatic. I pull into my driveway late, toss my bag inside, and before I even get my shoes off, I hear this low, steady mechanical hum coming from the water, like a generator, that refuses to shut up. And I'm standing there thinking, no, that can't be coming from the lake, because the lake doesn't make that sound. The lake makes frog sounds and wind sounds, and that little slap-slap of water against the rocks when it's calm. Not an industrial hum, like somebody installed a dishwasher in the middle of a nature. I walk to the kitchen window, pull the blinds, and my stomach just drops. Out on the lake, near the HOA green strip, on the far side, there's this bright blue floating platform with a pump bolted to it. Thick black hose running across my water like a snake, and an orange buoy that says Coyote Ridge, HOA, do not touch. Like they labeled my property the way you label leftovers in a shared fridge. And it hit me. Right then, these people didn't just make a mistake. They did this on purpose. I did the boring adult thing first, because that's how I'm wired. I took photos from every angle, close-ups of the hose clamps, the pump housing cereal plates, the little lockbox bolted to a post on the shore. Then I called the HOA office voicemail. I left a calm message that I would have been proud to play for a judge later, and I sent an email with a subject line that basically screamed, "Unauthorized equipment on private property, request permits, and removal." And then I waited, and the only thing that answered me was that hum all night like a taunt. The next morning at 6:12 a.m., I got the knock, not a normal knock, 3 hard hits a pause, then 2 more. The kind of knock that says I'm not here to chat. And when I opened the door, there she was. Brenda Carlisle, HOA president. Sunglasses on, like it's a photo op clipboard, tucked under her arm like a weapon. Smiling the way people smile when they're about to tell you what you're going to do. She goes, "Luke, welcome back," and she doesn't even give me a second to answer before she flips a paper toward me, like a waiter dropping a check. Formal notice of violation. And I'm staring at it, like it's in a different language because it says, "I interfered with HOA infrastructure. Fine $980 due in 10 days. I look up and I'm like, "Brenda, I got home last night. I didn't touch anything. What is that pump doing on my lake?" And she doesn't answer the question. She does. This little head tilt like I'm the one being unreasonable. And she says, "The board approved a community water initiative. This pump supports irrigation. It improves property values." "On my lake," I say. And she gives me that smooth HOA voice. You know the one, the voice that sounds like customer service but feels like a threat. And she goes, "The lake borders HOA land. It's part of our shared environment. We're utilizing resources for the good of the community." I actually laughed just this short, bitter laugh because shared environment doesn't mean shared ownership. Brenda, it's on my deed, and her smile thinned instantly, like a mask slipping, and she goes, if you create problems, the board can suspend your gate access and amenities, and we can pursue a lien if necessary. And then she leans in closer, like she's giving me friendly advice, and says, don't be that guy. And that line, don't be that guy. It's such a small sentence, but it's loaded. It means, don't embarrass us. Don't make us follow rules. Don't force us to admit. We can't just take what we want. It means accept the bullying with a smile so the neighborhood stays comfortable. She walked off like she'd won. And I stood there holding that violation notice, feeling this dumb mix of anger and doubt, because that's what people like Brenda are good at. They don't just cross a boundary, they make you feel weird for having one. By lunchtime, she'd already sold the neighborhood a story where I was the villain. The HOA Facebook group lit up with posts about one homeowner blocking community improvements. Someone stuck a flyer on my mailbox that said, "Support water for our green spaces." A guy across the street yelled, "It's just water." Luke, don't be selfish, and that phrase "just water" kept echoing in my head, because it's the trick. If they can shrink what they're doing down to something that sounds small, they can make you sound petty for defending it. And meanwhile, they're literally running equipment on your land and fining you for noticing. Over the next few days, it turned into a pressure campaign, like a slow-motion dog pile. Brenda sent email warnings with photos of my shoreline, like they'd been watching my backyard HOA security. This guy named Ray Dalton did a courtesy walk past my fence and said, "Cameras are up, like I'm a suspect in my own home." Neighbors avoided eye contact at the mailbox. People I used to wave at suddenly looked through me like I was contagious. And I'm not going to lie, that kind of social isolation messes with your head. You start replaying conversations. You start practicing your deviance while you make coffee. You start thinking maybe I should just let it go. Because it's exhausting to be treated like you're the problem when you're the one being trespassed on. The thing that really got under my skin wasn't just the pump. It was where they put their hardware. They bolted this lockbox right next to my granddad's outlet. Valve housing the old control point we used to manage water level during storms and maintenance. And only 2 people ever had the key. Him and then me. And seeing HOA gear posted beside that system felt like someone moved into your house and labeled your fridge. Like thanks for the hospitality we're taking over. So that night, I pulled out my deed and read it like it was scripture. Boundaries of lakebed water rights. It was all clear. And I realized Brenda's confidence wasn't coming from law. It was coming from the assumption that I'd get tired and fold. Because most people do. They don't want to be the neighborhood villain. You know what I mean? Then Friday afternoon, my neighbor Joanne Price knocked softly. And Joanne is this sweet retired lady who feeds birds and says good morning to everyone. But her eyes were sharp, and she held up her phone like she was handing me a secret, Luke. "I think you need this." And it's a photo time-stamped. 7 a.m., contractor trucks by the clubhouse, floodlights aimed at the shoreline. And there's Brenda Carlisle pointing like a director telling them where to dig. Joanne goes, "No permit sign, no." Notice, it felt sneaky, so I took a picture. That photo killed the last bit of doubt I had, because if you're doing something legitimate, you don't do it like a midnight heist. So instead of getting into a screaming match at the mailbox like Brenda probably wanted, I called Broward County Environmental Compliance. The woman who answered, Mia Alvarez, asked 2 quick questions. "Is it withdrawing water? And is there electrical equipment near the water line?" I said yes and yes. And she didn't sigh. She didn't lecture. She just went professional. That's regulated. File a complaint with your deed, and photos don't confront them physically. We'll schedule an inspection." When I hung up, my hands were shaking. But it wasn't fear anymore. It was relief, because facts have a special kind of comfort when you've been gaslit. And up to that point, everything had been feelings and community pressure, and Brenda's little smiles. But now it was paperwork and jurisdiction and rules that didn't care who had the loudest voice on Facebook. I spent the weekend building a report, boring on purpose Fototo's GPS points. Joanne's timestamp copies of Brenda's fine notices the serial number on the pump, the buoy label, and I submitted it. By Wednesday, I had a case number. By Thursday, Brenda called me, and it was funny. Her voice already sounded different, tighter, more forced, like she could still hear herself trying to sound in control. "Luke, why are you dragging the county into community business?" And I said, "Because you built on private property without permission or permits." She immediately went to guilt. "This will cost everyone money. People will blame you." And then she tried the softer threat. "You could have just worked with us. We're trying to keep the community beautiful." And I said, "Send me the permits." Brenda, and there was this silence where you could almost hear her deciding what lie to tell next. And then she went colder. "If you touch that equipment, you'll regret it." I kept my voice even. "See you at the inspection." And I hung up. The inspection happened the next Monday at 9:40 a.m. County truck rolls up, hard hat. Water kit clipboard. The inspector's name was Dana Ruiz, and she had that calm, no-nonsense energy, like she's seen every variation of this nonsense 100 times. She looked across the water at the pump platform and asked who authorized this, and I handed her my deed, my documentation. Joanne's time-stamped photo. Donna walked the shoreline, traced the hose route, photographed the lockbox, and stopped at the disturbed soil on the HOA side. Fresh work, no. Posted permits, no erosion control, she said, writing without looking up. That's when Brenda showed up late blazer on smile, locked in place, and she starts right away. This is a sustainability initiative approved by the board, and Dana didn't even blink. "Do you have permits?" Brenda's smile twitched. "We are in the process of documentation," and Dana just said, "That's a no," and kept writing. Donna explained what would happen next, because this involves water withdrawal and electrical equipment near a water body. We need to assess the intake and shoreline disturbance that may require temporarily lowering the water level. "Mr. Harper, do you control the outlet valve?" I said I do. And Brenda snapped loud enough for the neighbors, already drifting over with their phones. "You can't drain a community lake." And Dana looked at her like she'd said something silly. "It's not a community lake, if he owns it. And we're not draining it, we're lowering it. Under county supervision for inspection. Nobody interferes. Obstruction becomes its own violation." We scheduled the controlled drawdown for the next morning. That night I barely slept, not because I was scared, but because I kept thinking about how insane it is that you can mind your own business for years, and then suddenly your peace becomes a battlefield, because one person wants to feel powerful. Tuesday at 10:05 a.m., Dana returned with a county tech and a camera, and I walked to the valve housing with my granddad's brass key in my palm. And I swear I felt him with me in that moment. Not in some dramatic movie way, just in that quiet sense of, he trusted you with this. Do it right. And of course, Brenda came marching down the HOA path, like she was charging into war, shouting, "He's sabotaging our irrigation system." She pointed at the neighbors like she was recruiting a jury. This is what selfish looks like. And I turned to her and said steady, Brenda, you put a pump on my property without asking. Stop pretending you're noble. She stepped closer, and the perfume hit before the words that stressed out floral scent people wear when they want to look composed while they're spiraling. And she went, teeth smile. Luke, you could have been a hero instead. You chose to be the obstacle. I said I chose to be the owner. And Dana nodded once, proceed. I inserted the key, turned it slowly, listened for that old click, and water began moving through the outlet, steady and controlled. No drama, just physics. At first, nothing happened that the crowd could see, and I could feel Brenda trying to ride that. Like see nothing. He's just being difficult, but then the lake lowered gradually, and the shoreline started revealing what the HOA had done in the dark. And it was like the truth rising out of the mud. Within 20 minutes, the muddy shelf near the HOA side was exposed, and there it was a shallow trench carved into the lakebed PVC intake line, held down with makeshift weights and staining in the mud that looked darker than it should. Dana crouched, took a sample, and said, Do you see that sheen? And the county tech leaned in with the camera. Brenda scoffed, It's just sediment. And Dana didn't argue. She just wrote, because arguing is for people with no authority. Dana had authority. Then Brenda crossed the line, and it happened so fast I barely processed it. She lunged and grabbed my wrist. Stop. Turn it back. Now, and that's the moment where my chest went hot. Not because she grabbed me, but because she did it in front of everyone. Like she thought she could physically override a boundary, the way she overrides people socially. Donna's voice snapped. Let go of him. You are interfering with a county inspection. And Brenda yelled, He's destroying HOA property. And Donna said, cold and simple, This is not HOA property. Step back. Brenda tightened her grip for one more second, like pure stubbornness. And that's when the pump platform shifted. The intake cage snagged on the exposed trench edge. The hose pulled tight. The pump housing jerked sideways, and a loud crack echoed across the water. And then the lake looked like it coughed dirty spray. Dark plume, oily sheen. The kind of mess that makes your skin crawl because you don't even want to know what it is. Neighbors gasped. Phones went higher. Someone said, Oh my God. And Dana stood up, pointed, and said, Document the discharge now. Brenda finally let go of my wrist, staring at the mess like reality had betrayed her, and Dana read the violations out loud right there, where everyone could hear unpermitted construction affecting a regulated water body. Unapproved water withdrawal, infrastructure, electrical equipment, near water, without compliance, shoreline, disturbance, without erosion. Control, and then she looked at Brenda and said, A vote doesn't replace a permit. I swear you could feel the air change, because suddenly this wasn't a neighborhood debate. It was a legal reality with a witness list. Dana issued an immediate stop work order and added fines will be assessed to the responsible party listed on the contractor declaration. Brenda tried to pivot. The HOA is responsible, and Dana shook her head. The declaration lists Brenda. Carlisle is project coordinator. Your signature is on it. That was the moment Brenda's power drained out of her. Not because she felt guilty, but because she realized she couldn't talk her way out of a signature. She started talking fast, pointing at me. He manipulated you. He hates progress. He's anti-community. And Dana didn't flinch, Step away. You've already been warned about interference. Brenda stepped forward anyway. voice climbing, and the county tech moved between us and said, "Ma'am, turn around," and it wasn't some dramatic takedown. No one cheered, no one clapped. It was just the calm sound of enforcement and paperwork catching up to someone who thought popularity was a shield. I stopped the valve at Dana's direction, held the water level right where she wanted it, and stood there watching that oily sheen spread near the intake line, thinking about how close I came to letting this go. Because I didn't want to be the bad guy. After the county left, the neighborhood split. The way you'd expect. Some people apologized quietly, like they were embarrassed. They'd bought Brenda's story. A couple people doubled down and called her a martyr for the lawns, and a few said the line, "I can't stand." You should have kept the peace. You know what I mean? Like, peace is something you keep by letting other people take from you. And that's the part I want to leave you with, because this isn't just about a pump. It's about how fast a group can turn on one person when someone in authority frames basic boundaries as selfishness. It's about how easy it is to confuse compliance with virtue, and how hard it is to stand still when everyone around you is pushing. So here's my question for you, and I really want you to argue it out in the comments. If you were me, would you compromise to avoid being the neighborhood villain, even if it meant your property slowly became HOA property by pressure and paperwork? Or would you do what I did call the county? Let the rules speak, and accept that some people will hate you for not being easy to push around. Tell me who you think was right, who was wrong, and what you would have done differently. And if you've got your own HOA story, drop it below. I read them, I promise. And if this hit home, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs the reminder that a smile doesn't make trespassing okay, and a vote doesn't replace a permit.